Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Isabel Reynolds. I'm a reporter with Bloomberg News, and I'm also a member of the board here at the club. I'm very pleased to welcome here today a member of the cabinet, Karen Makishima, or Makishima Karen. In fact, one of only 2 women in the current cabinet of 20 people. Also, perhaps one of the LDP's rising stars at a relatively young age. She's the head of the youth division at the LDP, which has often been a stepping stone toward leadership. She's a fluent English speaker, having a master's degree from George Washington University and a PhD from ICU. And as Minister for Digital, I sometimes wonder digital what, but Minister for Digital, she's in a position heading an agency that has the potential to really transform Japan. So I'm very curious to see what she has to say about where Japan's gone wrong so far and what it's going to do to change its position in the digital universe. So I'll keep that very short. I just want to remind everyone before we start, please keep your phones on silent mode to avoid disturbing anybody during the speech today. So without any further ado, Minister, onegaishimasu.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your kind introduction and having me today. I brought some slides, so please, these are the slides in either way. And thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to participate this interview to introduce Japan's initiatives on digitalization at the FGCJ. And first of all, I'm Makishima Karen, a Minister for Digital, and also I serve as a Minister in charge of cybersecurity and a Minister in charge of administrative reform and regulatory reform. Before I start, I regret but need to address a tragedy that occurred in the middle of the election. Japan's former Prime Minister, Abe Shinzo, passed away. I would like to express our deepest condolences to the passing of Mr. Abe, who was the big supporter of digital agency and also the promoter of DFFT. For going into detail, let me explore our understanding of recent development of digital technology and the relation with the society. First of all, nowadays, digital technology is so firmly embedded in the society, and thus, if anything happens, everything is deeply related to and dependent on technologies. COVID-19 is just one of the cases by which we seriously realized how critical it is to appropriately utilize the technology. On the other hand, we were forced to recognize that the society itself, based on regime and regulations, should have been modified prior to this COVID-19 disaster, according to the development of digital technologies. Second, this technology is so deeply woven into the global activities that we cannot isolate ourselves from activities in the global cyberspace. Thus, in order to build up appropriate society, we will have to look out the world, and also we will have to modify the global cyber regime so that we will be able to efficiently cooperate and also to survive in this cyberspace. Thirdly, as the emergence of Web3, Metaverse shows the innovation in this area is continuing to happen in lightning speed, and sometimes this innovation leads to radical dimension change. Fourth, as digital technologies develop, the threat of cyber attacks is rapidly becoming more serious. To realize the digitalization of the society as a whole, it is necessary to strengthen cybersecurity measures for all parties, including government and critical infrastructure providers, to ensure a free, fair, and safe cyberspace. So the question here is, how can we maximize the merit and minimize the deficit? The first answer to the question is that we should establish robust basic platform not only for the government but also for its whole society. The establishment of this digital agency has been our answer. This organization is basically in charge of public digital infrastructure, but also rather more importantly, is designated as the control tower for digitalization of the whole Japanese society. Secondly, we believe it is fundamental to deploy basic infrastructure and digital system toward every nook and cranny throughout Japan with aim to enhance well-being of the people living there. This is why our government has commenced the vision for a digital garden city nation, which is a new vision for every local areas that fully benefit from digital technology and provide convenience and attractiveness while preserving the abundance of the rural areas. This is our approach to promote smart city projects, which is aiming for a society where everyone can live conveniently and comfortably anywhere in Japan. We promote the sharing of values toward the common goal of enhancing the sustainability of local lifestyles and improving the well-being of local people while placing importance on the consumer's perspective, and will draw out efforts for mutual assistance. And then, as digital technology and the social structure are so intertwined, as I said, we have launched the Special Commission on Digital Administrative Reform. It envisages not only future regulations, but also existing current regime and regulations, which might hamper utilization of digital technologies. That's why I serve as not only digital minister, but also as minister in charge of structural reform. We have got involved all the ministries in this framework and are making thorough investigation so that any legal impediment would not survive through this council process. Fourth, as long as the global framework is concerned, the FFT, Data Free Flow with Trust, has been our answer, which was proposed in 2019 by then Prime Minister Abe. On the free trade aspect, we have consummated several bilateral FTAs and also kicked off WTO-based negotiations in Geneva. But having seen the unexpected development or degrade of cyber world, the current emphasis is more and more on security and trust. Also, the cybersecurity issues are a benefitable thing for global framework. Based on information from international networks, we have repeatedly alerted industry and others since February 23rd, the day before Russia invaded Ukraine. During the Tokyo Olympic Games in 2021, a large number of unauthorized communications were observed, as many as 4.5 billion security events were blocked to protect the Olympic Games. This was largely due to learning from the United Kingdom experience. The lessons learned will be carried out and carried over to the future games, Paris, Milan, and Los Angeles. On cutting-edge technologies such as Web3 or quantum technologies, we are still struggling to grasp the situation and how to make legal interpretation, adoption, establishment of safeguard, and so on. From now on, I would like to dive into details to clarify some aspects through our experience in these 11 months. Everywhere around the globe, the pandemic revealed shortcomings of government administrations. In Japan's case, it was a wake-up call to seriously think about the country's digital transformation. Specifically, the pandemic highlighted the delay in digitalization of Japan's administration. For example, paying monetary benefits to suffering individuals and businesses took a long time due to cumbersome administrative systems. In the past, each ministry, agency, and local government had been promoting digitalization separately. Such practice resulted in about 1,700 separately procured systems, as we have around 1,700 local governments in Japan. The responsibility for digital systems and procedures has been dispersed among multiple ministries, agencies, and local governments. The COVID-19 pandemic has clearly highlighted the fact that the digitalization we have promoted separately has been almost ineffective. To overcome such issues, then Prime Minister Suga Yoshihide made the digitalization of Japan one of his top priorities. The digital agency has strong powers of comprehensive coordination, such as the power to make recommendations to other ministries and agencies. Thus, it can strongly promote digital transformation policies in an integrated and streamlined manner. Now we have about 700 officers. 450 officers are from other ministries and local governments, and 250 officers are hired from private sectors. They are mostly experts from broader areas. Some live in Tokyo, and some work from home while living in the countryside. Our staff includes individuals with challenges. Our goal is to create a Japanese-style digital society where everyone enjoys the benefits of digitalization. The agency's mission is to achieve human-friendly digitalization where no one will be left behind. In Japan, the country with the most aged society in the world and the population of more than 120 million people, I believe we can present a new model for resolving social issues by overcoming the aging, disasters, and other challenges through digitalization. As a result, I'm sure we will be able to create the Japanese future that we can proudly present to the world. We have two visions for achieving this mission. The first vision is government as a service. We will create a system that provides services that maximize the value of user experience through collaboration with national and local governments, the private sectors, and other stakeholders across the world. The second vision is government as a startup. We will lead the digital transformation across society in a bold and speedy way. To achieve our mission and realize our vision while utilizing the strength of our diversity, it is necessary for all staff to share the same values and standards of judgment. To this end, we held a workshop and formulated our values ourselves. For each and every individual in this country, always with a sense of purpose, across all positions, continue to challenge ourselves for impact. We will always return to these values in our efforts to solve challenges. Let me speak a little bit about what we are doing in terms of actual policies. Our goal is to design and detour the formation of a digital society. Thus, we need to think about the total design from the user-friendliness of interfaces to data strategy and a secure network behind the systems. Also, to adapt and respond to the rapid changes of technology, we will think about the optimal form of regulation in this digital era. In the pursuit of a digital society where no one will be left behind, we acknowledge that there are people who are not good at digital technology and the latest technologies trends and who are confused by new developments in the world. Today, we are creating an environment throughout the country where people can learn how to use digital devices, technologies, and services from people close to them in familiar places. By supporting such people in dealing with digital and technology, and by calling attention to the fact that such support initiatives are available. The people leading this national movement are digital supporters. We believe that the warm effort of digital supporters can improve convenience in local communities through the advancement of digitalization and technology, thereby realizing a well-being and sustainable society. Given today's session, I'd like to spend some time speaking about our latest policy program. This is our latest policy program, which we call Priority Policy Program for Realizing Digital Society. And at the end of today's presentation, again, I would like to speak about an idea of international collaboration, framework of data. As a minister, I'm in charge of promoting DFFT, Data Free Flow with Trust. At the G20 summit in Osaka in 2019, Japan proposed DFFT as an important concept and obtained support from many countries. the digital agency will implement Japan's data strategy as a national data authority and take concrete actions toward developing rules that contribute to DFFT. And we will also collaborate globally with the cooperation of countries that share the basic concept and ideals of DFFT and use the frameworks of the G7 and the OECD. Of course, we are very happy to collaborate with you to develop our ideas to solid actions. As a closing, I'd like to mention again that having presented our digital society and digital policy, Japan must achieve a digital society where no one will be left behind. From now on, I'm happy to answer your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Right, we'll move on to questions now. I'd just like to remind everyone, if you could, although we're very lucky to have a minister who speaks English today, which will save us a lot of time, if you could keep your questions brief, that would be helpful so that everybody gets a chance. Since I'm up here at the front, I'm going to ask a little question of my own first. Since we're coming out of an election now, and since you are the head of the LDP's youth division, I was wondering what you made of the low turnout rate among young people, particularly in Japan, and whether there's any possibility that Japan might look into online voting or some kind of electronic voting as a solution to get more young people involved.
I think many Japanese young people are so much interested in policy-making process, but I should admit not everyone is looking at the process very carefully. So we like to promote more young people be interested in the process of elections or democracy. That is part of our roles as parliamentarians when we face the younger generations of Japan. And of course, as you've mentioned, some younger people say they need to have more easy way to get to submit votes. And one will be the process of online. And it's not only about the young people who are discussing the process of online voting. And some who have challenges and who have difficulties to access to the ballot places need to have other options to express their votes. So we need to discuss very carefully with Somusho, MIC, how to realize to have more options for many people through online voting. And now Somusho is studying the ways for the people living abroad. And with the My Number card, the ID card, they will have the prove themselves, and they will get the online voting when they live abroad. So that is one of the starting points for us to discuss. But it's not the answers as this minister, but as a parliamentarian, I'm interested in having more ways to easy way to access the ballots.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, I'll turn the questions over to the floor now. Do we have anyone who would like to ask a question? Nobody? If not, I have some questions from online, but I don't see any hand. Please raise your hand if you have a question. No? Okay, let me turn to the questions from online then. Let me start with one from Catherine Erdmann from ARD German Radio and TV. She says, at the beginning of July, 40 million Japanese were cut off from the internet. what do you know about the trigger, and what is the state doing to take action against cyber attacks if necessary?
I don't see any connections between the issues of cell phone companies and cyber attacks. And I think the Minister of MIC will be the responsible person to answer to the questions of the cell phone companies' issues. But as Minister in charge of cybersecurity, we need to observe so much carefully from the daily life. The infrastructure who are responsible for our daily lives need to check their cybersecurities. And as I've mentioned earlier, we've already notified the importance of cybersecurity from this February. So, of course, the networks responsible companies or entities should check cybersecurity in their daily business lives. So that will be my answer to that question.
Okay, now I'm moving on to some questions from Fred Varco, who's a member, a freelancer here at the club. First of all, he's asking about your involvement in social media. He says he was looking for your accounts and could only find Facebook. Are you a big user of social media, or do you use other forms? Can you tell us about that?
Yes, I use Twitters, Facebook, Instagrams, and I write blogs almost every day. And I try to communicate directly to the people wherever they live. So actually, I'm using only Japanese websites. So it might be difficult for other language speakers or writers to find my accounts. But I try to communicate with other users living in other countries because we do have, as digital agency, we do have MOC with Denmark, Singapore, and Estonia. And I've met some counterparts in these countries. And also I've traveled some European countries and also United States these days. So after meeting our counterparts or our friends in the area of digital or the cybersecurity, I try to get the contacts with them through these SNS.
Right, so you're quite a heavy user then. Okay, the second one is quite a fundamental and broad question from Fred, saying, outside observers say that Japan is 10 years behind other advanced countries in terms of use of digital methods. Why has Japan been so slow, and how fast can you make the changes that are needed?
I think I need to be a little bit careful when I compare with other countries. And I'm not sure the specific names of the countries when the person mentions the developed or advanced countries. But when I traveled to the United States and we met the counterparts of digital agency in the States, we shared some challenges in both countries. For example, we do have 47 prefectures, and we do have about 1,700 cities, towns, and villages. And each of these local government has each system. And sometimes it was the hurdles for us to share the data. And exactly the same thing has happened in the United States when they try to share data among states or among states and federal government. So these lessons or hurdles we have went through during the COVID-19 pandemics will be shared among us. And these lessons will be the starting points for us to move forward with the speedy way. And with the establishment of digital agency, I hope many Japanese citizens or the many citizens living in other countries, of course, will expect that we do have the control tower as digital agency, and we do have the plans for the future of the Japanese digitalization. So we are the responsible sector to move forward the DX of Japan as a whole society. And we do have technologies in each business area, but sometimes laws or customs or rules or letters from governments or local governments are the hurdles for them to maximize the abilities of technology in each area. So we will eliminate these letters or rules within 3 years. And by passing the new laws to rewrite these analog rules to digital rules, I think we can have so much big impacts to the society and also to the economic society as a whole in Japan.
Thank you. When you talk about eliminating these rules that are hampering the digitalization, one thing that some of our questioners have written in is about health records in Japan. I think we've all experienced the fact that Japan's healthcare system is very broken up into small providers, and they don't tend to share information very much. Is this something that your agency can get involved in, setting up a centralized system of health records? And is that something you have on the horizon?
Yes, digital agency is now working with Korosho, ministry responsible for health issues. And we have to admit that many clinics have difficulties to move toward the digitalization. And still in Japan, some hospitals or clinics have used fax machines, and they tend to send the patient's data through fax machines to other clinics or the healthcare centers in local communities or in local governments. But the Korosho has built the system of VRS or the other systems that the data will be shared as the platform. So by using these platform, I think that might be the better ways for us to check the daily phenomena of COVID-19 or other pandemics that might happen in Japan. So that is part of the health records sharing system in Japan that might be improved. And the other one is by using minor hokensho, minor record as the health cards, each patient can present each patient's health record or the drug record, and the doctors can give their patients more specifically advice. So the service that the patients can get from doctors will be improved. So these are some aspects when we discuss the health record systems.
Right. One of our members, Pauline Reich, she has raised the issue of non-Japanese working with the Japanese healthcare system. And this is something that I came across when using the app, as I mentioned earlier in the green room. In using the app for the vaccine, for proof of vaccine, I had initially difficulties because of my foreign name and the various things associated with that. So how far, in digitalizing Japan, how far are you going to take into account the fact that there'll be a lot of non-Japanese citizens, perhaps with names that don't fit into the boxes that are that are set out for Japanese names? Is that going to be something that will be included in your considerations?
Yes. I think we need to improve from now on, but the vaccination record application has gotten a very big high record, like 3.6 evaluation. And because we've received many feedbacks from the users, from the Japanese or non-Japanese living in Japan, who downloaded the apps and who have used the applications. And I think it is so much important for us, digital agency, to receive the voices or feedbacks from users and improve as daily basis. So we can call it as agile manner, and we will release the service when we are ready. So after releasing for the first time and getting the feedbacks, and we will improve the bugs, or we will improve what are necessary to be done, and we will get the next stage. So the being agile and being improvements at the same time will be the stance for digital agency. So if you have some comments on our services, we are very happy to receive that, and we like to get the services more updated.
Okay, right, that's good to hear. Okay, I wanted to go back to the issue of remote work. You mentioned that a lot of people at your agency work remotely from other parts of Japan. I'm sure you remember, all of us do, that 2 years ago, in the early days of the pandemic, a lot of Japanese companies had difficulties with remote work, possibly not because of technical issues so much, or I think in a lot of cases it was more of a cultural thing. Do you see that as having changed? I mean, where is Japan in terms of remote work now? Is it in the situation it needs to be, do you think?
Now in digital agency, about 65% staff work remotely. And some of them at the beginning work as part-timer, as digital agency staff. So it is so natural for us to work remotely, or some of them work in their offices. And also, we do not have any desks or places or divisions in our offices. It's all free address system, so everyone can sit and get their desk and PC anywhere they like. And they can change their seats every day if they want. So it's so freestyle working space. It's so much like IT company. But at the same time, we focus on the importance of communication. And some of them are working in our offices, and some of them work remotely. And some of them work only 2 days a week. Some of them work 5 days a week. So the important thing is we do have mission, vision, values, And these are the basic ideas that we should share. And also, we need to communicate each other so often. And we've done one-on-one meeting among bosses and their staff, or we done the all hands meeting, and all staff gathered together online, and anyone can ask question to anyone, and we can use chat. And of course, I, as minister, receive questions, and of course, I do have answers to my staff or the staff of digital agency. So it's so much open and flat and free and safe, and at the same time, we have the people with diversity, and each person has each background. So it's so colorful, which is the uniqueness of digital agency. But because of that, we need to have many opportunities and chances to communicate each other, and we need to try hard to understand each other.
Yeah, I see you've explained very well what the situation is at the agency. What do you think about Japan more broadly? For example, the small and medium-sized enterprises, which had a lot of problems with remote work in the early days. Do you think they have caught up to any extent, or are they still doing the same thing that they always did?
It's not easy for the small or medium-sized, especially small-sized companies, entities in the industry of service providers. And some are essential workers who provide services to the elderly people or the small kids. They cannot work remotely. But I think even those industries, or even though these companies can have some ways to do the DX or digitalization. So they can start with using technologies or the computers or smartphones or data sharing experiences. They can find some ways to work remotely. But again, some companies' owners or presidents have had the experiences only to communicate directly when they do have meet their employees face to face. So they have to work harder to understand the situations of each employee.
Okay, I see. Do we have any questions from anyone else so far? I'm monopolizing the minister, but I'm happy to carry on if nobody else has one. Oh, a question there in front. Please go ahead.
Obayashi is my name, freelance. And regarding the, I think for the digital biggest obstacles of Japan's progress for DX is the central and local government bureaucracies. How do you conquer or break this biggest wall of bureaucracies?
Thank you very much for your question. As I've already mentioned, we do have 1,741 local governments, and they do have their own systems or their own ways of businesses. But at the same time, we do face the challenges and struggles that the population is declining, and especially in rural areas and local areas, they have difficulties to find the expertise, who has the knowledge of engineering or programming. So we've already started the project, which is called Government Cloud, and we are asking each local government to join this Government Cloud by 2025. And by joining this project, each local government no need to recruit engineer or no need to prepare a budget for system building. So these are the ways for the local governments to join the standards of systems. So that is one of the ways we've already proposed to local governments.
Okay, thank you. Since I have you here, I'd like to move on to a couple of slightly more political questions, slightly away from the digital area. One of them, I want to tread very carefully here. We were all obviously very shocked about the death of former Prime Minister Abe. But one of the issues that's been in focus since his death has been the Unification Church, or the former Unification Church, and its relationships with politicians in Japan. I was wondering if you had any view on, obviously Japan has a right to, there's a constitutional right to freedom of religion, but how far should politicians be involved with these religions? Should they be sending messages? Should they be taking part in gatherings related to religions? What's your view on that?
I think we have so many supporters. When we move the process of rule making as parliamentarians, and we need to listen to voices of each person wherever they live or whatever they believe. And I think that is the basic idea that each parliamentarian will have. But when we face the groups of each political idea, maybe each parliamentarian will need to look carefully the process they try to access. So the basic thing is each parliamentarian should have their own beliefs and their values, and these are the standards for them, for us, to work and express their ideas.
I mean, do you think this has been, in some sense, maybe a wake-up call for politicians to look again at where they're giving speeches and who they're sending messages to, and just before they do that, say, make sure, who is that person? What is the background here? Do you think there's some degree of perhaps getting a little bit lax about checking things like that?
I'm not sure about that yet. LDP has been said as grassroots political parties, and we've worked with each person in each area. So it's the connection between parliamentarian, LDP parliamentarian, or the LDP member or LDP candidate with each person. So it's so much unique for LDP history to build each supporters groups in each area. So it's not like having supported by unions or having supported by this group of workers, groups of workers or something like that. So it's not like that. We meet the people and we talk with the people, and when we ask supports or when they have some questions to be answered by us, and that's the communication between us. And with these small step-by-step process, we built the trust and also the supporters group by each political member of LDP. So I think the basic step will be protected because that is a part of democracy we believe in. So I do not have exact answer to that question right now.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to move on to your position as a woman in government in Japan and in the LDP. Obviously, you're in a minority, although I think in the last upper house election, a record number of women were elected. What do you see as the reasons why there are fewer women in these senior political positions in Japan, and what do you think should be done about it?
It is taking time. We see many female candidates, so much with talented, and also we've met many young female promising experts who might run for the office in the future. So I think the trend will be changed in the very near future, and I hope to believe so. But still, as a fact, we do not have many vacant seats for LDP candidates when we observe the lower house elections. So still, we have difficulties to recruit the female candidates to send to the vacant constituencies. That's the reality of the LDP, honestly speaking. But I think that will be change because we do have so many promising female LDP candidates.
Can you say anything about your own experience as a female politician? Has it ever seemed a disadvantage to you? Were there any particular difficulties that you experienced because of being a woman in politics in Japan?
Actually, I don't have any personal experiences that I felt I had disadvantages. But when I first ran for the election in 2009, for my constituencies, it was their first experience to have the female candidate, LDP female candidate, running for the lower house election. So maybe they have some struggles at the beginning, but they no longer have the challenges or struggles or confusions right now. So time healed the hurdles between us. So I think we can conquer the hurdles even when they exist at the beginning.
I'm personally from the UK, and we're currently looking at potentially having our third female prime minister. How long do you think it will take Japan to get a female prime minister, and could it be you?
There are many female senior LDP parliamentarians who might run for the presidential election of LDP in the near future again. So it might happen. within 5 years or 10 years, but the day will come for sure.
Do you imagine that in your future as a politician? Is that something you'd like to try for one day?
As a parliamentarian, I will try.
Okay, I'll just go quickly back to the digitalization issue, because we've got some more questions come in online. Again, from Fred Varco, freelancer. He has two questions. Do you think digitalization will improve GDP for Japan? And do you think digitalization will reduce the crazy amount of overtime in Japan?
Yes and yes.
Oh, that's a very simple answer.
Yes. We should improve the productivity in Japan, especially in the industry of service providers. And the digitalization will be essential tools for them to improve the GDPs of Japan. And also, we take so much time doing omotenashi things in Japan. But through digitalization, we can realize omotenashi and also the productivity at the same time. So my answer is yes and yes.
Right. Anybody in the audience? Yes, another question there from Obeshi-san.
Obayashi again. Regarding the, how do you know, there's no GAFA in Japan, no strong IT on digital companies. How do you expect few strong companies, IT companies in the near future? Or is there any way to establish these strong IT companies in Japan?
I don't think any Japanese big IT companies are being like GAFA in Japan. So Japanese IT company has its uniqueness. So they don't have to mimic the GAFA, or they will survive their ways in Japan. So they will see their own ways with their using their strengths and features in Japan. So maybe we don't have any GAFA in Japan, homemade GAFA, but we do have other IT companies. They do have the strengths that are different from GAFA or other IT mega companies. So we are looking forward to working with these IT companies of Japan too. Yes.
Okay, well, unless there are any other questions, I think we might draw to a close here. Is anyone? No hands raised still, so I think we'll call it a day for that. Thank you so much, Minister.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for doing everything in English. It must have been double hard work to figure out all our difficult questions. But thank you very much for answering.
Thank you very much for having me
today. Thank you.
It was a great time. Thank you. Thank you very much.